And birds still play an important role in the thinking of evolution today. I don't know if any of you ever seen the Jurassic Park movies. When I was a kid, the first one put out by Steven Spielberg, and I think it's the best one still. I've seen the newer ones. But I love that movie. You know, as a kid, I love the scene with the T-Rex, when the T-Rex escapes, and the guy hides in the porta potty, and the T-Rex comes and just bites him and shakes him around. I had that on VHS. You know, my kids, the funny thing is, my kids don't even know what a VHS is. But I love that movie. I still like that movie. But you know what? When I was younger and I watched it, there's a lot of things that I didn't really understand that were over my head. And I watched it in recent years, and I was surprised how heavy-handed that movie is when it talks about how dinosaurs evolved into our modern-day birds. And if you watch, it's in some of the other ones, but especially the first one, it's brought up at least half a dozen times in that movie that dinosaurs evolved into our modern-day birds. And that is something which, again, has been kind of made popular today. So I'd like to briefly talk about these two creatures, and this first one is the Archaeopteryx. And supposedly this is proof, this is fossilized proof that dinosaurs evolved into birds. And before I bring up a picture of this fossil, I'd just like to read a comment that Charles Darwin made himself. And he says this: "The number of intermediate varieties which have formerly existed on Earth must be truly enormous. Why then is not every geological formation and every stratum full of such intermediate links? Geology assuredly does not reveal any such finely graduated organic chain, and this perhaps is the most obvious and gravest objection which can be urged against my theory." End quote. This was said by Darwin. And so in essence what he's saying, if animals truly did just gradually change over millions of years into these other animals, then when people dig up the ground and they find these fossils, they should just be absolutely filled with all these, the term he uses is intermediate links. We should just find enormous amounts of fossils of kind of like half fish, half amphibians, half bird, half lizard, half ape, half human. It should be everywhere. But what does he say? I mean, let's take the man at his word. He says, geology assuredly does not reveal this finely graduated organic chain. And that's still true today. There is no proof of this in modern day. People will try to tell you there are these missing links, there are these intermediate forms, like the Piltdown man and Nebraska man and Lucy and these other creatures. But it's false. It's not true. And so again, one of the proofs for these kind of intermediate links, these animals, is this creature which has been named Archaeopteryx. And by the way, if you read about this, there are fossils of this which have been faked. There was a man who, and he was discovered as being fraudulent, but a man who found a fossil, I believe it was a fossil of a dinosaur, and he purposefully took a feather and, I don't know exactly how he did it, but tried to make imprints of feathers into the fossil to try and show people that this was, this thing was growing feathers. Well, this, as far as I know, this is a picture of a real one. This is the actual creature. And as you can see, it's kind of hard to see, but there are wings. This thing had wings. It had feathers from this fossil. But again, when people actually look at this and people are actually willing to consider this as evidence and take, you can really look at this and look at the details. Again, one author regarding this creature says Archaeopteryx also had fully formed feathers, just like living birds. Fossils of Archaeopteryx leave no hint of the animal being being a half-scaly, half-feathered creature. It was not in some kind of in-between stage. And so there's nothing from this fossil to suggest this is a reptile or this is a dinosaur. There's no scales, there's nothing, it's just a bird. It's just some kind of extinct bird. And, animals go extinct all the time. People, not only through natural disasters and changes in the world, but people have hunted animals to extinction. The dodo bird, is gone. I was just talking to someone about that recently. I wonder what dodo bird tasted like. It must have been pretty good if they hunted them to extinction. But animals go extinct. We don't see more and more animals coming into our world. We see animals going extinct. And this is just an example of an animal which has gone extinct. And then lastly, I'd like to just quickly talk about another creature called the coelacanth. And the coelacanth is known, what they call, they have these certain phrases they use, like missing link and so on. The phrase that they use for this kind of animal is a living fossil. Now think about that for a moment. A living fossil. That is a contradiction. And this is not the only example of this. I read one article where it listed at least a dozen or so more of these living fossils. And if you look at this fish, supposedly this is one of the missing links, which is proof that fish evolved into amphibians, which eventually evolved into other land animals. And the reason why this fossil isn't the best, but if you look at its fins are kind of weird looking, almost like it's a little leg. And so from this they've conjectured, well, this is proof, they probably made their way up onto land and slowly learned how to breathe air outside of water and then turned into amphibians and so on. And this fossil is supposedly 65 million years old. This fish lived 65 million years ago, according to people who espouse evolution. And this is the missing link between fish and amphibians. Well, the problem is, this fish is still alive today. They've recently, not too long ago, I would say it's been the past like 50 to 100 years, they found out that this fish is still alive. Now, have they reconsidered that maybe this fossil is not 65 million years old, when they see that the fish which is living today is an exact representation of what is found in the fossil? No. They still believe that this fossil is 65 million years old, and this fish is just still living today, completely unchanged. And not the prettiest looking fish in the world, but here it is. And I don't know if this will work or not, but this is it, alive today, swimming in the ocean. It's still alive today. Now, if evolution is true and animals are slowly changing, all animals, all living creatures, including us, if we are slowly changing over long periods of time, then why does the fossil of this fish look the same as the fish today? And this is a question which should be asked for all of these so-called living fossils. And again, this is just one of them. There's others. If the fossil of this fish was really 65 million years old, and they still claim that it is, then why don't we see some drastic differences, even just some little differences, between what we see in the fossil and what we see in the living fish today? But they're exactly the same, proving that if you're really going to go by the timetable they offer, that this fish has not changed at all in 65 million years. It just it puzzles the mind to think why people who are supposed to be concerned about science and concerned about just objective facts and presenting the evidence, that they would believe this kind of thing. And again, the same question should be asked for all these kinds of ideas about these so-called living fossils. So when we think about the theory of evolution, it offers no reasonable explanation for the origins of life. It cannot explain the orderliness that we see in nature, the complexity that we see in nature. It is contrary to science and the Bible. The advocates of evolution have what I would say is a pretty good track record of fabricating evidence and just outright lying to people in the public. And there is no objective reason to believe in the theory of evolution. It is fiction. And not only should we as Christians not believe in evolution just simply because it's just, as I said, it's just a lot of made-up stuff and it's not scientific, and it's contrary to the Bible, which is very important. But evolution is evil. evolution is an evil philosophy. Is a way of thinking which teaches people they are nothing but animals. And that you as a human being, you have the same value as a dog, as a cow, as a cockroach, as any other living creature. And do we pass moral judgment on a lion when a lion goes out and kills a deer, kills a gazelle? Do we really care? Generally speaking, people don't care. Do we get up in arms when a cat kills a mouse? We don't care. Kids watch the movie. That's the circle of life. That's just how life works. And so why should we care if we're really going to believe in this, if people are really going to believe in this? Why would we care about any kind of moral judgment on people? If we really come from animals, if we are evolved from apes, should we really care if one person kills another? If one person molests another, rapes another, harms another, steals from another? Should we really care and really do anything about it in our culture, in our world today, if we're just animals? And the obvious answer to that is, well, we should care. There's no reason to care if we are really just intelligent animals. One friend and teacher of mine said, an atheist does good contrary to his beliefs, and a Christian does that which is not good contrary to his beliefs. And that is absolutely true. When we act out, if a person ever harms someone, they're doing so in contradiction to the Bible, not because the Bible says that's a good thing. Atheistic evolution is a philosophy which robs people from knowing their true identity. And when we look at the Bible, again, the Bible is very clear that we come from God, that God created us as a special creation, that we do, of course, share some characteristics that animals have, but we are unique. We are not the same as the other things God has created in this world. And it says in Genesis 1:27, God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he him. And so this teaches us that people have intrinsic value because God created us in his own image. He did not create the other things in this world in his own image. And so when one person wrongs another, even someone they consider an enemy, that is an offense to God. And we read these words from James in his inspired letter. James 3, verses 8 and 9. It says, the tongue can no man tame. It is an unruly evil, full of deadly poison. Therewith bless we God, even the Father. And therewith curse we men, which are made after the similitude of God. And then he goes on to say, it shouldn't be this way. We shouldn't be people who bless God and praise God and sing hymns to our God and then just turn around and curse people. And James reminds us that people are made after the similitude of God. And therefore we should be a people who are civil. We should be a people who respect and value human life above other life, above that of animal life. God is the creator of this awesome and wonderful world in which we live, and its variety, its splendor, and the life that we see which exists today. These are reasons we can glorify God and trust in him.